What up, Masters? Another solid episode coming to you. My friend Dan Rochon wrote the powerful book, Real Estate Evolution. Okay, and listen to this. He breaks down N.L.P for us. I'll tell you, I've been playing with or heard of N.L.P for years and years. I remember back in my 20s going to Tony Robbins events and they talk about N.L.P. and I never really understood it. And I'll tell you, it's interesting how Dan, in a really short amount of time, is kind of able to break that down for us and talk about kind of how that works with building rapport and using generalizations and all that great stuff. And that's why I love this article, interview, I should say, right? So maybe I will make an article out of it as well. But what I really want you to understand is the topic here is how to get on the same page with someone or with your clients. It really makes no difference. And I'm really excited. I think this is a great episode. You're going to get a lot from it. It's nice and short and condensed, and there's a lot of really good meat and potatoes here. So anyway, that said, I want you to jump on this Thursday, the 18th, at 1 p.m. I'm doing a special 30-minute webinar for you on how I was able to generate so far over $33,000 in closed income, and I have a potential of another $60,000 worth of income, listings that are already listed, buyers I'm working with, from the making one simple expired call in the morning and then going to the house in the afternoon. So I'm going to share that whole process with you this Thursday, 30-minute webinar. Go to davidihill.com/events. Again, davidihill.com/events. Get registered for that webinar. I will see you Thursday. I'd love to answer all your questions. And for now, enjoy Dan. Hey, what's up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. Today we were with Dan Rochon. Dan, what's up, brother?
Hey, David. How's it going, man?
It's going well, man. It's
Good.
funny when I jumped on with you, I'm like, dude, you look familiar, and I'm not picturing it. And when I met you years ago, you had hair and no beard, and now you've kind of reversed it, like me.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a transformation. You and I have probably been sat side by side in probably about a dozen or so classes across the country, different real estate related classes. But that's a few years back, actually. So I was much prettier back then.
Oh man, I like the look now, man. I think the look's great, dude. So
All right.
All right. So you definitely make the cut in my book. All right. So you are you do a lot. You are an OP for KW for years. You are now run a top team. You also study N.L.P. Are you a practitioner of N.L.P? Are you a teacher? What does that look like?
I don't teach it. Well, I do teach it in real estate related classes. Mm-hmm. I don't teach it as its own thing. Okay. And what I found is to be, a lot of real estate agents just don't even they don't understand how the words that we use can make an impact in regards to creating an outcome. And so I teach it in the context of here's how you can understand the human psychology more effectively so that you can, persuade, buyers, sellers to do what's right for them.
I love it, man. You also wrote the book, Real Estate Evolution, the 10-step guide to C.P.I, constant predictable income. Man, that's important in real estate, right? You see a lot of the ups and downs in real estate, right? Yeah. And just a little bit more about you. You actually sold 15 homes a month for 129 consecutive months. 1 to 15. 1 to 15. Oh, 1 to 15. Oh, sorry. I thought you said okay. 1.
Hey, man, I'll take the 15.
No, I you notice I skipped right over the 1. All right. Well, good. I appreciate you having integrity on that. And anyway, man, thanks for joining us today, and looking forward to having some fun today, man.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And thank you for that great introduction. I'm no longer an OP, and I do have that experience over a decade. Just to get clarity around that as well. And that's operating partner for a local, for one of the real estate brokerages. Just wanted to, share that as well.
So let's start with the N.L.P thing, because, we just kind of brought that up. When you say you teach it in real estate related conversations or classes, talk to us about that. What do you mean by that? Like, how do real estate agents use N.L.P?
Oh, that's such a broad question.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll break it down into,
So negotiating,
general.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're meeting with somebody for a listing. It could be a negotiation. A lot of different
Yeah.
areas. So
Yeah. I'll give you an example. So earlier today, I was in a very tough negotiation over commission on behalf of one of the agents on my sales team. And the approach that I took in there was initially to develop rapport. And the way that you develop rapport is to have a connectivity with another person. And, there's a lot of tactics that you can be able to do to get in a rapport quickly, which would be to be utilizing the same language, the same inflection, the same tonality in your language, the same words. And then when you're in rapport is when you can physically feel it. Okay. And so, for example, if you're utilizing N.L.P. or the skill set of N.L.P. in a negotiation, the foundation of that would be to have rapport. But then if you just look at like general communication, you can break it apart so that there's general communication, like a concept would be like distortions, deletions, and generalizations. Okay. And so that's a concept that's taught in N.L.P. in Neuro-Linguistic programming. And what that means, for example, is like generalizations. This isn't a political comment at all, but our current president, Trump, utilizes generalizations excessively. All right. So an example of generalizations would be something like everybody believes this, or people have been telling me. Right. Yeah. So it's a really broad brushstroke of a generalization.
Or it's a declining market is a generalization, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so now there's a broad spectrum of fill in the blank. Okay. So there's an assumption that when somebody says something like, well, people are saying that becomes a true statement, and it is a true statement, yet in most cases, is everybody saying it? Probably no. Right. If you have more than one person, if you have two people that are saying something, it qualifies the statement. People have been saying this. People have been talking about this. And that would be an example of generalization. By the way, all former presidents utilize persuasive languaging, right? There's a different level of what they've done when I've studied them. And then deletions and distortions could be like a distortion is if you've ever had somebody say something to you and then you made it mean something else. So I'll give you an example of that. I was actually teaching these concepts in an N.L.P. class to real estate agents. And at the end of what I was teaching, one of the students came up to me and says, Dan, tell me more about that deletions, generalizations, and distortions thing. And I said, well, let me, and I sort of was using an analogy of a different concept that's also taught in psychology and N.L.P., which is the development of human beings. Okay, so when you're typically ages 1 to 7, right? That's when you're setting your foundation of programming. Okay, to have the belief system that you're going to have for the rest of your life.
Sure.
And then from about 7 to 13 for children is when they're modeling. Okay, and so that means that they're watching you drive, and if you're looking at your phone, then that's probably what they're going to do. And then 13 to 22 for ladies and 13 to 27 for men, because we're knuckleheads and we're slow to learn, is socialization. Okay, and that means that our friends and the people that we surround ourselves with are going to have a greater impact on us. All right, so I was sharing that with him, and then I was talking to him about my daughter Maggie, and I said to him, and my daughter right now, she is modeling. But what he heard was that she was strutting down the catwalk. What I was intending to communicate was he was paying attention to those around her and then emulating their actions.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was just so ironic that in the context of teaching generalizations, that was actually a distortion. In the context of teaching that, the individual that I'm speaking with then distorts what I'm saying to mean something completely different. And that's not bad and wrong, right? It's just the reality of it, right?
Sure.
And so you go back to how can a real estate agent utilize that in the real world? Well, if you can understand the potential for the mix-up of communication, then you can pay better attention to it. Okay, and so then if you're paying better attention to it, then you can make certain that what you're intending to communicate is actually received. Because another concept in N.L.P is that communication is the response.
So you do that. I'm guessing you do that by asking questions or creating like an affirmation, like how do you know you're on the same page with somebody? Do you ask them? Do you get that? Or, can you rephrase what I'm saying? Like, how do you make sure you're on it? Because I can see that happens a lot in negotiations. Yeah. It happens when you're meeting with sellers. You say one thing, they take it the wrong way. So how are you sure you're on the same page? And something you said earlier too, you said you can feel it when you're in rapport. I want to know more about that as well. Like, how do you feel when you're in rapport?
Yeah, let me hit that one up first, and then I'll give you some some better things there. So with the rapport, have you ever been in a conversation and you sort of had butterflies in your stomach and you had like this feeling of connectivity? Right. I remember the first time that I felt that. I was a young boy sitting in a showroom of a car dealership, and the salesperson was talking to my father and my mother, and I felt this really sort of like this guy is really interesting, right? But I physically felt it. Okay. And so when you can physically have so that's the way that you know that you're in rapport. Okay.
Is it just like a flow? Like you feel a sense, like
I'm going to use this as a second example to answer your other question. I'll get back to it. So you were asking in regards to like, how do you know how can you ask in-depth questions and that type of thing? Well, the thing about it is just paying attention to the person that you're communicating with. So as I'm communicating with you, the concept of how you know what rapport is, I'm paying attention to you, and I can recognize that you're not understanding the concept in the manner of which I'm intending for you to do so at this point. Okay, so I'm just paying attention to you, David, and in my communication, it will allow for me to have a greater clarity on if you're hearing it and processing it in the same way that I'm intending to communicate it. Okay, so when you just pay attention to the other person that you're communicating with, whether that be a seller, a buyer, another agent.
Let me ask you this question then. With regards to your example on modeling, how would you have known that because you had said modeling, like, they're modeling my behavior. And how did you find that out? Like, or did he make a comment after? Because that could have been easily, I mean, if he didn't say anything about it and you just kept moving, you would have still been in rapport. And he may have thought your daughter's modeling right? Right. So
she's pretty enough to model, right? But yeah, I get it.
So how do you figure out that you are on the same page? I guess is my question.
Going back to your initial thing that you were saying is like it's asking questions. Okay, so in communication, the best way to be able to persuade is to ask adept questions. Well, first to be in rapport. Okay, then ask adept questions. And then actively listen. And if you're not used to doing those processes, it's like learning a new language. And then through time, you start developing, like, for example, if you learned how to speak a second language 35 years ago and you used it consistently, today you probably wouldn't have to like remember how to speak Spanish or German or whatever it is that's not English if that's your first language. Okay, so through time, you get more in tune to being able to utilize the tools. Okay, and so because that's the languaging that I speak, more often I will recognize when I'm not connected, like I wasn't connected with that individual. That's just through years and years of practice, however. Okay, so will you catch it every time? No, right? But in the same sense, you and I could speak English or Spanish or another language, and we're not always going to, we're not going to always understand each other.
All right. Well, all right. Fair enough. I want to jump forward. The one question I didn't ask you though in the beginning, which probably should have been my first question, was what is N.L.P? Like, can you define, like in a minute, how do you define it? Or is it everything we just talked about? Rapport?
As a part of it, right? Neuro-Linguistic programming is the study of subjective experience. Okay, so if you're looking at objective experience, it can be, objectively, I've got a cup here that's some sort of bluish green, objectively we can prove that, right? Like you can say, yep, that is, unless you're colorblind, that's another story. Subjectively would be based off of interpretations, okay? Because we go through our world in a subjective experience based off of our own experiences.
Yeah.
Right. You and I have different experiences. So given the context of the same thing that happens today in this moment, you and I very likely will have a different interpretation of that. And so it's a study of how we will interpret that, and then how we can better get aligned in how and what makes us make those determinations.
So this is interesting because right now, with everything happening with all the
no kidding.
you know, the what is it? It's what are they doing now? It's the riots. It ends up turning into riots, but they're not actually. I can't
protest that gets out of hand.
Protesting, yes, I'm looking for the word. Protesting is getting out of hand. I think they might be, now they're bringing in military and stuff. But what we keep hearing about is biases, right? Like people's biases. And I think this is kind of like the conversation that we're having now, because you're right. Like you can say something to one person, and in your mind, it's like, this is clear as day. Like this is what's happening. And the other person, no, that's not. Masters, I'll get you right back to the show. This Thursday, June 18th, 1 p.m. Eastern, webinar, guys, my friends. I'm going to show you how you can make $90,000 from one simple expired call. It's going to be a 30-minute webinar. Events. Again, davidihill.com/events. Get signed up right now. Stop. As a matter of fact, stop it right now. Go to davidihill.com/events. Get registered, and we'll see you on Thursday. Enjoy.
So that's a perfect example, because you and I are great examples of this, because we have different experiences that then sometimes you're not able to sort of understand my perspective, and I'm not able to understand your perspective. It doesn't mean that we don't care about each other, and it doesn't mean that we're not intending to understand each other. It just means that sometimes there's like this gap of, if I've never ate a strawberry before and you're trying to describe to me what the taste of a strawberry is, that's going to be really, really hard for you to do, right? Because I don't have that experience.
Yeah, sure.
Right? It gets into a cellular, that deep of it. So that's a great example of what you're bringing up there.
So here I'm in a situation now. I'm back in the trenches selling real estate again. I got this seller, and we were supposed to put the house on the market. We met. We came up with about $480 for their sale price. It's probably, it could be worth $5, but it needs some updates and stuff. So she talks to her son, and then her son is this financial advisor guy, persuades her to put it on at $520. And now she won't listen to me. So anyway, I just said, whatever, you're the boss. We'll put it on at $520. I put it on, and now here we are at $520. We have had 0 showings in a market that as soon as you list a house gets 25 showings, offers right away, and we got nothing. And I'm calling her, and I can't get through to her. It's not making sense. And I've been doing this 17 years and
you know what you're doing.
Pretty high level.
Something's
just not lining up, and I can't figure out what I'm missing. And I said to her yesterday, I'm like, I'm confused. Like, you told me you want to sell the house. We met. Now, so what? I mean, what do you say to someone like this? Like, I'm actually talking to her son tonight, so maybe it's a conversations with him.
I would get both together though, because if you get, it is the son that's most likely influencing her, right? If you get them both into and get them onto a Zoom call, right? Because that's going to be a higher level, right? So now you can connect with each other on a higher level. And if you get them together, then you'll be able to actually identify what the objection is. It is also possible that the objection is nonsensical, that you're never going to be able to handle. Okay, that is an option. Yet you'll have a much better chance is to just sort of connect with them at a human level. It goes back to that rapport. Right. Because if you're in a sales role, right, I'm intended to influence you, then you're going to automatically sort of combat me. Right. And, but if you and I are just like, look, man, you and I, we're about the same age. Right. Like we probably, we've been in real estate sales. I've been a little shorter than you. right? And now it's like, let's just BS this on a human level. What's up?
Yeah.
Right. And then there's no antagonistic, and then you can get to the root of the cause. And then from there, then it's saying, okay, well, I get that that's what's scaring you. It goes back to people want to be, they want to be right. They want to be, and the things that they fear is being made wrong, right? It's fear and greed, right? Those are the motivators, right? So there's probably some sort of fear in there, and it could also be greed in there as well.
Yeah. Well, it's such a crazy situation because we had the conversation. I sent them the RPR report. They looked at Zillow. Zillow has it at $499. Everything says $499 or lower, but yet they still are insistent that it has to go anyway. It's just it's crazy. I don't want to waste our time on this.
Yeah, no, I got you. But also the questioning, they have to be the decision makers, not you.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so you're going to have to sit there and ask them the questions in a way that you're not conflicting with them, yet they're coming up with the decisions.
Well, I think, my mistake may have been just taking the listing in the first place. And that's what I'm starting to think. I should have just, when she had said that, when she made the change, that's when I should have said, you know what, this isn't what we spoke about. This is a partnership. And, at that price where, I'm concerned it's going to affect your ability to sell the house. So,
yeah, but this would be a different conversation when we were having it then than when we're having it now. Right. Because there's a different thing to do then.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, preparing expectations, agreeing upon expectations.
Sure. Yeah.
Yada, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's past, right? Which I know you're an expert at what you do, right? So, I feel almost like even giving you advice is like, dude, you know what the heck you do.
Well, we all get in these situations. It's an emotional business, that. And And I was surprised by it, and I'm like, all right, whatever, we'll put it on. We'll try it their way. We did an open house. 0 people showed up, and here we are a week later. We've had no showings in a great neighborhood. House that if it was on at $499, probably would have had 10 showings by now. So it's just one of those things where that's good advice. I think getting both her and her son on the phone tonight, because I had asked for both, and she had just said, "Here's what's his name's number. Call him at 7." So I'll do that. All right. I want to jump into your book. Your book is the Real Estate Evolution. Talk to us about your book. What's that all about?
Yeah. So when I sold, so as I mentioned to you earlier, I was an owner of a rather large local franchise. I was a franchisee of a major real estate. Yeah. And so
I was at Keller Williams for a long time, man.
That's how you and I knew. That's how back when we had hair, right? We had to figure out, I know that guy.
I don't think I've had hair, but maybe when I was 18, but
maybe. Yeah. And so when I sold the brokerage, I knew that I needed to get some guidance of like, what's the next step? And, I just pulled out my phone and just, went through and said, oh, boom, just call people and ask for their advice. And one of my mentors had suggested to me, said, Dan, just like write down, you got an immense knowledge, right? You've seen what's going on. You know what you're doing. Just write it down. And this could be useful in some way or another, but most specifically, it could be useful to be able to communicate, to other agents to be able to help them. Because that's something that I've always been passionate about. And so, I've seen through my journey, I've seen hundreds and thousands of real estate agents fail. We know that 87% of all agents fail, right? And I just think that that's a shame. Like, I don't think it should be like that. And the biggest thing I see is that, when you mentioned that roller coaster of sales, is that inconsistency. And so that's why I wanted to put together a guide. I wanted to put together a guide to be able to show people an exact pathway to be able to attain that consistency and predictability. So I really divide the book into it's in 10 sections, yet I suggest that it's about 3 different components to it. One being we touched on it with the N.L.P, and I expand on that as well with the personal development, the flourishing. And so, because it's who you're going to be is the foundation of what you're going to do and what you're going to achieve and have. And so, the personal development is a big part of the book, about a third of it. And then I talk about my own personal journey. I don't hold anything back. I'm completely transparent. tell you about the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. And then the last piece of it is to share like exact hows. And that's not only just like, that's not only like, here's how to take a listing, or here's how to consult a buyer so that their expectations are met so that you don't get, a landmine up in front of you, but also like, here's how you can become a rainmaker. Here's how you can develop a team, right? Like, here's how you can go from 50 transactions to 100 each year, right? So it's a specific guide to the exact steps of how to be able to have that consistency and predictability.
And then you said there were 3. Is consistency the third one? Because it's personal development, my story, and the how. Those are the three parts of it. All right. So what do you see as the biggest mistake, Dan, when it comes to that consistent, predictable income that you talked about?
There's like really 3 answers that I can give you that are sort of combined. And the first is the belief that it's possible, right? And so that goes back to just asking yourself to say, has anybody ever done this before? And the answer to that's yes. Then the next question is, well, who are they being and what are they doing? Okay. So that's sort of the first step. And then the second piece of that is managing your time or organizing your time in a manner that you're doing the most important priorities first. And in real estate sales, that's typically going to be lead generating for listings. Now, it could also be lead generating to get into relationships with other highly talented people like yourself. And it can also be paying attention to your finances, right? Like, because paying attention to the profitability of your business and how much, money am I making or spending or whatever the case may be, that's a priority, right? And so if I don't schedule for that and put it into a time block, then I'm being negligent in regards to the way that I'm approaching things. So I would break it into personal development / mindset, belief, time blocking, and then time blocking for the right things, and then following that time block. And what I see for the mistake is agents not doing that.
Yeah. It's the number one thing. Number one, and anybody I've coached or worked with, you work with them on consistency. It's funny too, because I'll bring people on and I'll watch them. If they show up, their business goes up. But then they get like, oh my God, this is way harder than I thought. And you end up weeding a lot of them out because they're like, I don't even want to continue at this level. And,
it's hard.
I think you're 87%. I didn't realize it was that high. I thought it's more like 70% will fail. But I think you're right, because even if you took the 70 and then you took the other 7 or 13%, I think those are the ones that could succeed, but they're not willing to put in enough work to succeed.
Or they don't have the right plan or the right mentorship or guidance or leadership, or maybe their brokerage, spilled a bunch of crap to them. I mean, many, many more people should be succeeding than that dude.
Awesome, man. Well, awesome. Well, how do people get in touch with you? And if they want a copy of your book, what's the best way to do that?
So they can visit www.therealestateevolution.com. And you find me on Facebook. We run a group called Rock Solid Agents by Greetings, Virginia. And so that's a Facebook group. Just apply to join for that, and we can get connected. And you can find me on Facebook, all the social media, Dan Rochon. And happy to connect, conspire with you, mastermind with you, whatever.
Cool, man.
Help you in any way.
Yeah, man. Well, you're a good dude, man. It's funny. I remember you after, and you've always been a really cool, down to earth dude. Yeah, I would encourage everybody to connect with you. Is that a Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man machine in the background over there, man?
That is a Miss Pac-Man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Is that the actual arcade, like the game, the big? Oh man, I got to come play that sometime. I missed that. When I was a kid, man. Awesome. All right. So final question for you, man. What do you think? Like, everybody listening to this, we jumped around a bit. It's my fault. I do that sometimes. But what would you say if they just chimed in right now? What do you want them to take from this episode? Like, what should they walk away with?
Believe in yourself. Have an understanding of what's most important in regards to the actions that you're going to take that are going to drive the results that you want. Have a plan, have a goal, and then take massive action.
I love it, man. And then connect with you, man. Go check out your book. All right. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Masters, I hope you enjoyed the show. Listen, before you jump to what's next, give me 45 seconds. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, Vulcan7.com. Guys, everything you need for your prospecting needs, everything. Go to Vulcan7.com/path to mastery. Also, get yourself a free audiobook on Audible. Just go to davidsfreebook.com. That's it. Go to davidsfreebook.com. You get yourself just about any book on Audible. My friends, I just want to say I so appreciate you investing your time here, your energy here. I hope you get a ton from it. And please, if you're willing, go give us a review. Your reviews help tremendously. And please share the episode, the podcast with somebody else. Again, it just helps us grow, helps us get better guests. Not that we even need better guests, just helps us get more great guests. So listen, again, I appreciate you investing your time here, and I hope you have a tremendous rest of your day or your evening or whenever you're listening to this show. You rock.